What's good, y'all? Welcome to a certain type of video today where we're going to be doing a response video to Probably Pretentious's video on why he doesn't like Hiroaka. Now, full disclosure, guys, Probably Pretentious is a guy that I'm subscribed to. I love his videos with the anime production, man. I've learned a lot from him. He's a great YouTuber from that sort of perspective when it comes to anime production, that sort of thing, with the various other shows that he's covered throughout his channel. Great videos, man. If you're looking to get into that kind of stuff or learn more about anime production and whatnot, he's definitely one of the YouTubers you should be watching. And he's also actually done a video on Hiroaka as well, back when Season 7 started airing. That was a great video on top of the production side of things. However, with this video with Hiroaka, well, not as egregious as a lot of the other videos of people just dissing Hiroaka, this feels more of just him going into Hiroaka with the wrong expectations, as well as just some weird complaints and kind of him projecting his own personal biases onto the show itself instead of, enjoying it for what it is. I felt like, for shits and giggles and as a fun challenge, responsibly to this and kind of like defend Hiroaka, I guess you'd say, and, rebuttal a lot of his claims that he mentions in this video. So, yeah, let's see what we got. Now, first of all, guys, I'm not going to be going through this video like frame by frame by frame, play by play. I'm going to be skipping around parts of it. I'm not going to be covering everything. I'm just going to be covering a lot of the major points and stuff that I personally have something that I can, add to the conversation and whatnot, man. But, yeah, first of all, man, we got to talk about this dude's scores for Hiroaka, man. He gave Season 1 a 2 out of 10. Season 2, he gave a 3 out of 10, along with Season 3 as well. Season 4, he gave a 5 out of 10. Season 5, surprisingly, he gave a 6 out of 10, which was the highest rating out of all the seasons, which is kind of weird because you guys know how controversial Season 5 was. Season 6, he gave a 5 out of 10, and Season 7, he gave a 4 out of 10. First of all, dude, ain't no way you think Hiroaka is that bad, man. Bro, have you seen School Days? That is a 4 out of 10, 3 out of 10, type anime. Hiroaka is not that, man. With how great the animation is, its story, the characters, and everything, man, there is no way you can reasonably give this show a 2 or a 4 out of 10. I'm just sorry. I cannot get jiggy with that at all. Anyway, now let's get into his first criticism, which is about just how heroes portrayed in All Might and All Might's overall characterization.
My Hero Academia presents heroes as good people. These are folks who risk their lives without question, all for the noble cause of helping people. How nice of them. All Might, the most influential character in the entire show, is presented as a literal symbol of heroism and all things good. He saves people, he beats up villains, he does his homework on time, he eats his vegetables, he drinks a glass of milk before going to bed. He is perfect. Too perfect. When frail All Might showed up back in episode 1, I thought they were going somewhere worthwhile with him. Perhaps it's not just his physical body that has broken down, perhaps his worldview has too. Perhaps Deku would need to confront the idea of his childhood hero not quite being who he thought he was, mentally speaking. Perhaps the show will differentiate between the glamorous optics that surround All Might and real life. After all, that selfless, people-first mentality is so perfect that it feels like a parody. Well, no to all of that.
Except that's literally what happens in episode 2 when Izuku asks him if he can be a hero corpus. And what was it that All Might said to him again?
Pro heroes are always having to risk their lives. Some villains just can't be beaten without powers. So no, I honestly don't think you can become a hero without a quirk.
I see.
If you want to help people, there are plenty other ways to do it. You could become a police officer. They get crap because the heroes capture most of the villains, but it's a fine profession. It's not bad to have a dream, young man. Just make sure your dreams are attainable, realistic. Understand?
Yeah. Literally, the entire second and third episode is literally just Izuku finding out that his idol just told him straight out, you can't be a hero corpus, as All Might is very much disillusioned with Hero Society being the #1 hero at this point. At this point, it seems like he just does this purely out of obligation or as a job rather than actually having the drive to want to actually help and save people, while completely shattering all of Izuku's hopes and dreams in the process. Until he sees Bakugo captured by Sludge, and even after everything that just happened, he still rushes in headfirst, completely corpus, while all the pros are just sitting around not being able to do anything, to go and save his friend, inspiring All Might through his resolve to get off his ass and actually go and save them, and then finds Izuku as his next worthy successor for One for All. Like, dude, I know you mentioned in the video that you don't remember everything because of how long this has been running, but like, this is literally what the entire series is built around, dude. Like, come on! Anyway, he continues on.
Now, why am I looking at My Hero Academia through such a cynical lens? Why can't I just appreciate it for the simple good wins, evil loses show that it is? Short answer, because the show doesn't present itself as such. It clearly tries to explore morally ambiguous topics, it raises plot points that are morally grey. For example, heroes do bad things occasionally. Just look at Endeavor and Hawks. Villains have somewhat humanizing backstories, meaning they aren't all bad. MHA clearly tries to be more than your silly good wins evil loses show meant for literal toddlers, but by doing so, it opens itself up to a bunch of questions that it could have avoided otherwise.
Bro really went into this series that's a massive love letter to Marvel Comics, written and drawn by the guy that's basically this generation's Sam Raimi, and expected the boys. Which brings us to his next point, talking about the character's heroism, which once again, I feel this once again goes back to the whole thing of this dude going into Hero Lock expecting the boys for some reason.
For example, why are these heroes so selflessly heroic? The show being called My Hero Academia is not a reason, by the way. That might sound like a joke, but that's unironically the kind of arguments MHA fans use. The heroism of the characters, to me, feels undeserved, if that makes sense. It feels too convenient, which brings us quite seamlessly, if I do say so myself, I was in my bag writing the script, to the main cast. Let's look at Deku first. We can safely assume that if he sees someone in trouble, he will try to save them even if it costs him his own life. The only exception to that would be the very first time he encountered a villain back in season 1, and even then he went for it the second he saw Bakugo. He is very heroic, but why? What made him that way? Did he see someone die as a child while he was helpless? No, at least I don't think he did. If that did happen, I hope they show it soon because that's more interesting than everything else the show has to offer. Was he saved by someone, kinda like Shiro from Fate was saved by Kiritsugu? No? Then why? Just because he watched All Might on TV? While on crack cocaine apparently? I don't think that's a compelling enough reason. That's a reason, sure, but is it really enough to justify him being that selfless and brave? This child, I'm not entirely sure. Here's the thing, it bothers me when someone is this dedicated to a cause without an appropriate reason. I think it feels cheap and takes away from the moments that could have otherwise been character defining.
Except it literally is just that simple. Izuku was inspired by All Might, and a lot of the other cats as well, like Todoroki, Bakugo, all of them were inspired by All Might or some other pro hero. Now, I don't know how well versed or big of a fan he is of superheroes, but I feel like if you ask literally anybody that is a fan of Marvel, DC, Invincible, or any other superhero comics that are out there, if you ask them why their favorite hero is their favorite hero, they'll probably tell you, give you a similar reasoning for why for Izuku and the others. It's because they felt inspired by them in one way. That happened with me with Spider-Man. That I'm sure happened with some people who are currently watching Invincible with Mark Grayson. That damn sure has helped with a lot of people with Izuku who are watching Hiroaka right now. Do you know the amount of people I've known on Twitter or whatnot that have like gone to the gym or whatnot because of Izuku? Shout out to Nico, man. Great, go to colorist. Like, it's really just that simple, dude. Like, I don't know why he feels that there needs to be like this deep philosophical reasoning for why Izuku wants to be a hero and is this selfish. The boy is just built different. This may just sound cheap, but that's really the case, man. He is just a very selfless person. That's just who he is, and All Might is, and he was just that inspired by All Might. It's really just that simple, dude. And besides, when he mentions about Izuku being, watching someone die as a helpless child, bro was literally just describing Kirishima in a sense, because you guys remember back in season 4 when we got Kirishima's origins, we found out what drives him as a hero was that back in middle school, when Mina was met up with Gigantomachia, instead of being like Izuku and running headfirst in danger, he just stood there frozen. And that is what drives him to be a hero. In fact, if you guys are OG subscribers, you guys might remember I did an episode discussion on that video going into the difference between Izuku's type of heroism as well as with Kirishima's. So go check that video out. I really like that one. But yeah, I think his whole criticism of Izuku being and not being able to grasp a simple concept that Izuku is the reason why Izuku is so driven and so selfless is just because that's just who he is, and he was just that inspired by All Might is dumb. It's not that, it's literally just that simple, dude. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, let's continue.
Like I said, the show is terrified to portray most of the good guys or hero society as a whole as imperfect. It might do so briefly, but it quickly moves on without providing any real answers or conclusions.
No, in fact, it's quite the opposite, dude. Hiroaka loves questioning hero side. That's in fact what the entirety of Act 3 is built around. After Dabi leaks a video about Endeavor, Hero Society effectively collapsed. We see it. Civilians are now against heroes. They're on their back foot, man, while the League is preparing for the Second War. Like, everything in Act 3 showing you is criticizing and showing you really all the problems, and the foundation was built on being built around a single symbol was not sustainable. Now, this is where we're going to start to get into some manga spoilers. So, for any of my fellow anime owners that do not want to get spoiled on the last couple of chapters of the manga, skip to this time code. For everyone else, let us continue. Now, as you guys know, at the end of the manga, we set for the 5-year time skip or whatever, we see that Uraraka started up a court counseling system, and because obviously what happened with Toga and wanting to not have a repeat of that, and because of that, man, the rate of villains and the crime rate has significantly reduced, which does go into one of his points he mentioned in the video that is indirectly kind of answered with this. He mentions constantly about how the villains are like the underdogs of the series, and that the system is against them. That is very true. The system of how Hero Society was built is definitely very much in favor of them, and not so much about the villains and just actually rehabilitating them. That's how we got people like Dabi, like Shigaraki, like Toga, who were either like turned away by civilians hoping another hero would take care of it and fix it, or from just obviously being Endeavor's son in the case of Dabi and Toya, or just their quirk being very different from what you expect from society being a blood quirk, and people looking at her weird, people not teaching her how to work the quirk and everything, and how to still be able, even with this quirk, to still function as a member of society. That's what Uraraka's quirk counseling system is. It's literally just about that, to fix so that people who have quirks like Toga do not become Toga. And with Izuku becoming a teacher as well to teach the next generation heroes, both of them have effectively completely reinvented Hero Society as a whole. I'm sure manga readers can probably get a lot more deep about this sort of thing. You guys know in anime only they've only heard some of the manga through the grapevine. So instead I'm going to let my friends speak for me.
Izuku becoming a teacher and Ochako becoming a court counselor are two very important things, because from a psychological perspective, from a social psychology perspective, there are two professions that kind of basically affect the way that society will continue to maintain itself, and that's education, because how children learn your children are going to become the next leaders of the country. That's why everybody's freaking out about education right now. And your counselors, because your counselors are there because they're going to be the one that's guiding people in order to support them. And as people get more mental health support, people are going to make different decisions than they would be. You make a lot of different decisions when you don't have support versus when you do. So the fact that Ochako and Izuku have both decided to go into these professions, knowing that they can then change society from the inside and doing something different than just running around and beating people up.
I'll give him a pass on this one, because this goes into like stuff from the manga, and this also goes with Izuku as well, with him inspiring a lot of them to actually go out and help people, help other civilians, rather than what happened with Shigaraki. We're like, I'm sure a hero will take care of it. So I'll give him a pass on this one, because like I said, this deals with stuff in the manga that we'll see in season 8. But yeah, him going off about Hero Society, about Uraraka not quitting Hero Society is weird, because like it does it multiple times from Stain, like I said, all of Act 3, Dabi, man. Horikoshi has tons of commentary and criticizes Hero Society a lot of times throughout Uraraka, man. Anyway, let's move into a later part of the video where I think is the real reason why he doesn't like Uraraka and finds himself rooting for the villains instead of the heroes.
I think the heroes are simply on the right side of the law, not the moral compass. I've made this point time and time again. The heroes in My Hero Academia are simply cops in costumes. Quite literally so. They are the police, but for those who have quirks. Neither is that my opinion, nor is it my interpretation, it's an objective fact. Whenever I make that cops in costumes argument, a bunch of people call me names and say that my opinion is wrong without ever elaborating on why. Please enlighten me, because the way I see it, the heroes simply arrest the villains, but with a few extra steps. Those steps usually being police brutality. Now yes, there's nothing inherently wrong with the idea, but I personally don't like rooting for law enforcement, not my thing.
Bingo! And there it is, the underlying reason behind, I think, all of his problems with Uraraka. Now, first of all, the dude isn't wrong about saying that the heroes in Uraraka are just cops in costume. At the end of the day, they are really just glorified cops in colorful costumes, really. Like, let's be honest with ourselves, that's what they are. But with him saying that he doesn't like rooting for law enforcement, I think that's really the main reason. It seems like, honestly, now I don't know the dude from a whole book, but from where I stand, from what I can gather from the, it also seems like this is, at the end of the day, dude just projecting his own personal biases against cops for whatever reason onto the show, and that's kind of the reason why he doesn't find himself rooting for the hero. He's always rooting for the villains and whatnot. Is because of him. They're nothing but cops, which to be fair, like I said, they are. Now let's get on to his actual criticism of Izuku himself, and Jesus Christ.
And this is the point where I'll for a few minutes ditch the nuanced critic tone. Ready? Here goes. I fucking hate that green-haired twat. I fucking hate him. Look, I don't condone bullying, but if I went to school with him, I'd make Bakugo look like Mother Teresa. In all seriousness, I can't stand Deku and his goody two-shoes personality. I think it's so bland. Most shonen protagonists are like him, sure, but they usually have some edge to offer. Something besides I'm a good guy, but Deku doesn't. I'm genuinely curious as to what you MHA fans, if any of you are still watching, think Deku's character arc is. Going from I want to save people to I really want to save people is not an arc, by the way. Such a pointless character.
Alright, first off, I'll at least give him this, that he doesn't fall into the same usual trappings as a lot of people do when they go around dissing Izuku's character about calling him like a whiny bitch and whatnot that cries too damn much, or calling him a fried cook. Thank fucking Christ for that. I'll give him that much at least, but still he falls into a lot of the same trappings because I swear to God, just like instantly become blind when it comes to Izuku. Izuku's growth is empathy. Izuku's growth is learning there's more that the villains aren't just villains, they are people too. If you guys remember during the Gentle Criminal arc, which I'm sure he skipped because you know it's filler, even though it's fucking not like that, it's arguably the most important arc for Izuku's character development. But anyway, as you guys know, in that arc with Gentle Criminal, his whole thing was that he wanted to be a hero, but for one reason or another, he just couldn't. So he turned to a life of crime to be remembered, and that's where Izuku learns that that there are more to the villains than, as he puts it.
He snatches purses and kicks Dalmatians in his free time.
Anyway, in that arc, as you guys know, we found that Gentle was just a guy that wanted to be a hero, but through circumstances, he just couldn't and ended up getting someone seriously injured, and then ended up turning a life of crime just so he could finally be remembered. And this is when he guys has an aha moment and realizes there's more to villains than meets the eye. This leads to him wanting to save Shigaraki at all costs, because he's known there's more to him and that there is a good person in there somewhere deep inside him. And what happened with Gentle when he made his return? Easily one of the greatest moments of the entire series when he had his return in season 7. Seriously, that shit was so fucking hype. Shit had me slapping my arm like I was a fucking rock. Seriously. And not even just that, Izuku's self-confidence as well. He goes from the start of it being a depressed, lonely kid that's quirkless, has no friends, you know, the only friend he knows has been bullying him for like 10 years or whatnot, to not only gain more confidence in controlling One For All, but just having more friends around him, just becoming a more confident person as well. And after this, in a follow-up video he made for this month of anime series, where he talked about vigilantes, the reasonings he uses for why he loves Koichi in comparison to Izuku is just laughable. Just take a listen.
He is cheesy and somewhat cringe, but in a good way, if that makes sense. His behavior doesn't feel obnoxious to me. In fact, I'd go as far as to say he is somewhat endearing. And on top of that, I love how he second guesses himself, especially near the start, and how his confidence gradually builds up as he learns to utilize his quirk better. There's an upward trajectory when it comes to his character growth, and I think that's great.
If you got a sense of deja vu, then you are not alone, because he literally uses the same reasons that people love Izuku for Koichi. Literally. Here's the same clip, but I switched the footage with Izuku instead of Koichi and tell me it doesn't fit like a glove.
He is cheesy and somewhat cringe, but in a good way, if that makes sense. His behavior doesn't feel obnoxious to me. In fact, I'd go as far as to say he is somewhat endearing. And on top of that, I love how he second guesses himself, especially near the start, and how his confidence gradually builds up as he learns to utilize his quirk better. There's an upward trajectory when it comes to his character growth, and I think that's great.
It's like actually insane, like you can't make this shit up. Anyway, now let's move on to his final criticism that I want to cover, which is his bizarre take on Hiroaka's power system.
Another aspect I'd like to talk about is the power system, a crucial component of a battle shonen, and this is an aspect I've done a complete 180 on over the years, unfortunately not in a good way. I used to think that the concept of quirks was really cool, the applications were effectively endless, right? Well, yeah, that's the problem. There are so many hyper-specific abilities that the system doesn't feel clever anymore. The show can create any ability it wants without having to cater to an overarching system. Let's compare MHA's power system to something else. Let's compare it to Cursed Energy from Jujutsu Kaisen, of course.
Of fucking course he mentions JJK.
One of the best power systems ever in my opinion. Cursed Energy, just like Quirks, has a bunch of applications, but these applications have to stick to a set of rules. They have to adhere to the fictional physics and chemistry of the universe. The concept of merit and its exchange is always catered to, be it domains and veils or the idea of revealing techniques, making them stronger. The techniques, despite being different, follow the same principles. That's clever. It's not just throwing abilities at the wall, it's creating abilities from a well-defined set of rules. And I'll be very honest, I feel like that creativity is missing in My Hero Academia. Quirks just come off as lazy to me. They're like, here's a thing, and now here's another thing. Some of these random things are utilized well, yes, but as a whole, it's not particularly intuitive.
No, well, actually, in fact, Hiroaka arguably has one of the most grounded power systems out there, at least when it comes to the superhero genre, very much based in physics. With Kaminari, his quirk works off brain chemicals. That's why he goes full retard whenever he uses too much electricity.
Never go full retard.
Momo's quirk works off lipids, literally the fat off her body to create shit. That's also why she's chowing down so much food every time we see her in season 7. And then, of course, we also see quirks where they're not an absolute match with their user. Izuku, obviously, we see him struggling to use one for all for a good chunk of the series. Aoyama with his quirk, with him needing the bell just so he can actually use it properly. Dabi, Mr. Human Torch himself, his body's more resilient to ice, so he's literally lighting himself on fire every time he uses his quirk. He unfortunately wasn't as lucky as our boy Johnny Storm when it comes to having fire powers. So yeah, him calling Hiroaka's power system lazy is just stupid. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys for this video. This is like, obviously there's more to his take, there's more to the video and more points he levied up, but I wanted to talk only about a handful of them, and I didn't want this video to be like 2 hours long. Well, not as egregious as a lot of the other videos criticizing Hiroaka are, and trust me, there are plenty. There are plenty of videos that are like just egregious and rival the shit takes Bleach had to deal with back during its heyday, man. This video still is still wrong with bad taste, and I think just boils down to probably Pretentious coming into the show with just the wrong expectations. Like I said, going into Hiroaka expecting the boys. And special shout out to my friend Sai Speaks and MHA Lore, formerly Bad MHA Takes, on Twitter for helping me out during the production of this video. That's why it's also the video took so goddamn long for it to actually finally come out. So make sure you guys go follow them on Twitter as well. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today, man. Hope you guys did the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you're new. Follow me on social if you feel like it. Links are below. And it's always come back for more. See you guys next time.